marvelously well attended, and our producer was chagrined and embarrassed and practically in tears that the fans of Days of Our Lives had to suffer that.
Yeah, had to stand out in
that kind of experience
in that bright sunshine
to meet the cast. Yeah,
and he did not expect 2,500 people. He expected maybe 500 people. And here was this huge crowd, and when we left, he hid from them. Because we left before the end of the line. There
were still people in line, and we all had to make an airplane.
We had to make a flight, and he said, "We go out the back door, and don't let anybody see me."
Yeah.
That's why we went back a second time.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe he hid, but I can imagine the uproar, of the people that didn't get to see you. So,
you were stood in that line, right?
Yes, I did, but I was closest to the door, so I was able to get in before they closed the line. I don't even know when they did, but yeah.
Well, we were supposed to be there 3 hours, and we were there like 6 or 7 hours, long time, and then they kept saying, you have to leave or you won't make the plane, so we suddenly left.
Well, I think they could probably understand that. It may have been a disappointment, but you did go back again, so probably those people that didn't get in the first time got in the second time.
Yeah.
So
that was actually the second time, because the first time was in Marietta, I had heard. So that was the second time.
Okay, then that was the second time.
Back like a third and fourth, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know why they took those small venues, where there was no place to sit down, and it was just hard. It was hard on the fans, and we don't want to do that.
Right.
We don't want to abuse the fans.
Yeah.
We want them to have a lovely experience, of course.
Well, Dawn has a message for you. She said she's sorry that she couldn't be here tonight for the interview, but she unfortunately was diagnosed with shingles.
Oh, ow! Oh, excruciating.
Painful.
Yeah, so she's on medication, and hopefully, it'll be over soon.
Well, Dawn, if you're listening right now, I'm sorry. Oh,
sympathy.
Yeah, she is listening, so I'm sure she'll appreciate that. She wanted me to let you know. That's why she wasn't here tonight. And Sabina is my co-host as well, and I have another one, David. And actually, David is online, and he wanted to ask you guys a question. Is it okay if I bring him on?
Please let David speak.
Okay, David, speak.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
We're both fantastic.
bubbling along.
You are the quintessential couple, I have to say. You have
thank you.
Set an example.
Thank you, David. What's your question?
And, my question is, and this is gonna date me. So, what is your fondest memories of Brenda Benet?
Oh, many. There was you ladies may not have known Brenda Benet. She played Lee along about 1979, 80, 81, along in there, and she was almost indescribably beautiful. Just a fabulously beautiful lady. She had a very difficult part to play. Doug and Julie were married, and then Julie got a bug in her pants.
No, Julie was in an explosion at Maggie's farmhouse.
Yes, that's...
The oven exploded all over Julie's face, and Julie was scarred. And Julie was afraid to appear in public and was afraid to be seen by Doug. She withdrew from her husband and lived alone and was just miserable. And in that time, Doug's heart didn't wander, but a scheming woman played by Brenda Benet got her teeth into him and got him to marry her. And then, of course, Julie gets over her narcissistic worrying about her face and goes to a plastic surgeon and, of course, is completely transformed back to her old self.
Right.
Actually, they just peeled off the rubber scar, and I was fine.
And by that time, Brenda Bonet's character, Lee, was pretty bonkers. She was pulling wild deeds and acting very strangely, and she really went crazy towards the end. And there are just so many scenes, David. I don't know. There are just so many along the way.
Well, I have one, and that would be the wedding day of Doug and Julie when Lee showed up, the remarriage of Doug and Julie, when Lee showed up and tried to stop the wedding. And Doug told her what he thought of her conniving and her abuse and locked her in a closet and went off and got married to me again.
Oh, my gosh.
Singing Till There Was You at our second wedding. So that was a pretty great show.
So, David, do you have a favorite scene of Brenda Bonet?
I think you named it.
Yeah. I had known Brenda long before she was on the show. She and I had been Deb stars together when I was a fledgling actress and she was a dancer on various shows on ABC. I was on The Young Marrieds on ABC doing soap opera then, and she was dancing in films and on television on variety shows. And we had been close friends. But when she came on the show, I must say I was very jealous that she was getting to do so many scenes with my husband. I had a hard time for a while.
Well, we had
a hard time for a while.
Lee and Doug had bed scenes, you know. It must have been quite difficult because we weren't married that long.
That's true. But Brenda eventually tragically ended her own life, and it was a terrible blow to the show, to all of us. The cast was much closer then. It was a smaller cast, and we all had known her for years by that time, and we were dismayed and disheartened, and it was the big tragedy of, I would say it was the greatest tragedy that Days of Our Lives, real life tragedy, ever faced.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's one thing when MacDonald Carey passed and when Frances Reed passed. They'd been with us a long, long time, and we all had many decades together. But Brenda was cut short at the height of her beauty and her talent, and it was a great loss to everyone.
You know, one scene that always makes me cry every year is the Christmas
same here.
storyline when everybody puts their ornaments
on the tree,
name and put up the ones that have passed, and that always makes me cry. It's so emotional. That's
what it's for.
It's a great idea, you know.
Yeah.
That you have a special memory of everyone in your family at that time. It's a great idea. Bill Bell started it, I believe, on the first show that he was the head writer, and it's continued every year since, and it's just been, I love it.
I'm glad they still do it.
Yeah.
There was one moment when there was a new head writer, and they were going to burn the Horton House set. They were going to get rid of it.
Oh, no.
But cooler heads prevailed, so we got to have the tree.
That's good.
And those ornaments, they treat those ornaments like the crown jewels. They're put away in a safe, so that next year they have exactly the same ornaments with the names done the same way.
And if anybody were ever to break one, I think they'd be off the show forever.
Yeah, yeah. They watch them. The prop men handle them, and they're standing right there, just off camera. Mm-hmm. You can't see them, but they're there, and they're watching like you're handling the most delicate thing, you know, which they are, of course, very delicate.
Right. Well, you thank those prop men for us for taking care of those for so many years.
Yeah, they're important.
I always wondered if you brought new ones on, you know, every couple of years or so, but they always look the same, so I figured, you know, it was the same ones.
Yeah.
They are.
Well, ours are the same ones that we've had since the 70s.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I think that the Tom and Alice ones, I think they were made in the 60s. The show started in 65. I think the tradition probably started along about 66 or 67, and so I believe their ornaments are still the original ornaments.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Dina, you had one last question?
Yes, I am very curious, Susan, what it was like working with Billy Burke.
You remember Billy Burke?
Oh yes.
How do you know Billy Burke?
I remember her from The Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz.
Right. Well, in addition to being in The Wizard of Oz and having a very nice film career, she was married to Florence Ziegfeld. Perhaps you've heard of the Ziegfeld Follies?
Yes, I have, and I've seen it. Mm-hmm.
The Ziegfeld Follies were the greatest show on Broadway for decades. And he was one of the great producers of the Ziegfeld Girl. Was the first showgirl, the first great idea of a magnificent showgirl. And Florence Ziegfeld married a couple of beautiful women, but the one that he stuck with was Billy Burke, and she was exquisitely beautiful. She had been the daughter of a clown and had grown up in England and spoke with actually quite a British accent. She had been with her husband through the Great Depression, where he lost all of his money, all of his power in show business, and then his health. And she became a movie actress in order to pay off his bills because he had lived very high. And there were debts that were stupendous. And she worked as long as it was necessary to pay off every penny of her husband's debt.
Oh, my gosh.
When I worked with her, she was in her late 70s, had a hard time learning lines, but that didn't matter. If she got stuck on stage and couldn't remember her lines, she would say something, and something funny, and something that suited her. So it was a great lesson in being a good sport and learning about other periods of time that were very, very significant in show business and having respect for them. Because you could not be around this lady without having respect for the life that she had lived, the people that she had known, and what she was still contributing to entertainment. So I spent maybe 3 years of my childhood, from the time I was 10 to about 12 and a half, in her company, a lot of the time, because we toured together, and we worked together in Phoenix, and we worked together in Palm Springs, and then we did NBC matinee theater, live television, together doing the play that we had toured in. And I appreciated that sometimes when you get to be an old entertainer, you don't want to give it up. And we're old entertainers now, and we don't want to give it up. We just still love doing it.
And you'll do it as long as you can, right?
As long as they let us.
And I think that keeps you young, and I think it keeps your mind going and gives you better lives.
I agree. To work on a soap is not an easy thing because the lines are memorized, and sometimes you have to poke the words in there. And in addition to acting them, it's a challenging thing. I wish I'd had the experience of working with Billy Burke, because she was, she's in our memories always because of the Wizard of Oz.
But you got to work with Bert Lahr, who was the Cowardly Lion. So
yes,
there.
I did.
Ah.
Yeah, Billy worked in
Dawson City
with Bert Lahr, and they went out fly fishing together a lot.
Yes.
If you can imagine the Cowardly Lion fly fishing, he liked that a lot.
Yes, I lived upstairs in this tiny little house. Bert and his wife lived downstairs. We were there playing Foxy all summer in 1962, and he would get out his huge can of fly fishing equipment and holler upstairs at me and show me how he would do it as fly fishing.
Aww.
It's a nice memory.
It is. It's a lot of great memories, and I'm so grateful that you shared them with us.
Yep.
And we're at the top of the hour. It went so